Today, the Caitlin Clark stimulus package just got approved by Congress today. It's fitting that last time a new CBA.
In the complex, multi-billion-dollar arena of global sports business, the absolute greatest illusion that a labor union can successfully project to the public is the illusion of collective corporate value. When a massive financial windfall hits an organization, the union will immediately step up to the podium, take an aggressive public relations victory lap, and claim that the entire workforce organically generated that wealth through their shared dedication to the product. But if you strip away the mainstream media narratives, ignore the congratulatory press releases, and deeply examine the actual mathematical spreadsheets, a much more brutal, unapologetic reality emerges. Wealth is almost never generated equally. In highly specialized entertainment economies, 99% of the revenue is typically generated by less than 1% of the workforce. And right now, the WNBA Players Association is taking a historic, highly publicized victory lap for a massive financial milestone that they absolutely did not organically generate. They are aggressively taking credit for a completely unpredictable, black swan economic anomaly. We are witnessing the ultimate exercise in corporate wealth redistribution, where the unprecedented cultural momentum of a single generational point guard is currently funding the bank accounts of hundreds of players who generated absolutely zero independent market demand. Welcome to the breakdown. Let us expose the unvarnished mathematical truth behind the Women's National Basketball Association's brand new revenue-sharing payout, the highly strategic group licensing contracts, and the devastating reality check that a billionaire owner just delivered to the entire league. To truly understand the sheer magnitude of the financial illusion currently taking place, you have to understand the specific historical context of the WNBA's collective bargaining agreement. Back in 2020, the Players Union and the ownership group signed a CBA that included a highly publicized, theoretical revenue-sharing trigger. The mathematical mechanics of this trigger were explicitly clear. The players would only receive a 50% share of incremental revenue if the entire league hit a specific, predetermined financial benchmark. That benchmark was based on the league's 2019 revenue numbers, compounded by a massive 20% growth target every single subsequent year. For half a decade, hitting that compounded financial target was a complete mathematical impossibility. The league consistently failed. They blamed the global pandemic, they blamed a lack of marketing, they blamed poor television time slots. But the brutal, underlying corporate reality was simply that the baseline product, as constructed, was completely unmarketable to a mass mainstream audience. The league was a massively subsidized financial black hole, and that revenue-sharing trigger was viewed by financial analysts as a complete phantom clause that would absolutely never be activated in our lifetime. But then, the most disruptive, historically unprecedented economic force in the history of women's sports arrived in Indianapolis. And suddenly, the impossible mathematics became a completely undeniable reality. Listen to the historic, monumental announcement that the Players Union is currently using to validate their entire negotiation strategy.
Is upon us. The WNBA generated enough revenue in 2025 to trigger revenue sharing with players for the first time.
For the first time in the 28-year history of the organization, the Women's National Basketball Association generated enough raw capital in 2025 to finally trigger the revenue-sharing benchmark. A massive, unprecedented pot of $8 million is now scheduled to be actively dispersed among the players on the 13 rosters. The WNBA Players Association immediately flooded social media, aggressively popping champagne, putting their chests out, and declaring to the world that this $8 million payout is absolute, definitive proof of their collective value. They are using this exact moment to justify their ongoing, increasingly hostile demands for a 27.5% gross revenue share in the upcoming 2026 collective bargaining negotiations. They are looking the billionaire owners directly in the eye and saying, "Look at the revenue we just generated for you. We finally hit the benchmarks. Now you need to open the vault and pay us what we collectively deserve." But the $8 million revenue-sharing pot is only a fraction of the actual wealth redistribution currently taking place behind closed doors. The most glaring, undeniably exposed element of this entire economic narrative lies within the league's group licensing revenue. In professional sports, group licensing encompasses the massive, highly lucrative market of physical merchandise. It covers player jersey sales, officially licensed apparel, trading cards, and digital video game likeness rights. When you analyze the historical data regarding the WNBA's group licensing payouts, the numbers are so catastrophically low that they border on absolute embarrassment. But what just happened over the last 12 months defies all conventional laws of sports marketing. Listen to the absolute, jaw-dropping statistical jump in licensing revenue and the incredibly dark reality of what it actually means for the players currently receiving those checks.
From 2016 to 2019, they dispersed $280,000. Nobody was buying jerseys, trading cards, merchandise, none at all. None whatsoever. Then from 2020 to 2025, now we're splitting up.
From 2016 to 2019, a 4-year span, the entire Players Union dispersed a grand total of $280,000 in group licensing revenue. That means that, across a professional sports league over 4 consecutive years, the general public was essentially buying nothing. Nobody was purchasing the jerseys. Nobody was investing in the trading cards. Consumer demand for Women's National Basketball Association merchandise was virtually non-existent. Now, however, the WNBA Players Association has announced that it is distributing an astonishing $9.25 million in licensing revenue, a staggering 3,200% increase in merchandise capital. The overwhelming majority of that $9 million pool was generated in just the last calendar year. Here is the critical point that union leadership rarely addresses publicly. That $9.25 million did not materialize because millions of fans suddenly rushed to buy the jerseys of backup power forwards in Los Angeles or reserve point guards in Seattle. The bulk of that revenue was driven by the tidal wave of Caitlin Clark apparel, Panini trading cards, and officially licensed merchandise. Yet, under the union's collectively structured group licensing agreement, those earnings are not allocated solely to the individual responsible for generating the sales. As Nneka Agwamike, a leading union figure, has explained, players place their name, image, and likeness into a shared commercial pool. That structure forms the foundation of a revenue distribution strategy designed to support the entire roster, including those who may not independently drive significant merchandise demand.
Quote, "We've grown as a union and put our name, image, and likeness into a collective package." Nneka Agwamike says, "The union exists for us to be able to represent all players, so I think it's a great way for all players to be able to..."
We put our name, image, and likeness into a collective package. This is the absolute definition of corporate socialism, operating within a hyper-capitalist sports environment. The Players Union deliberately structures their licensing agreements so that music, the astronomical profits generated by a singular, transcendent megastar, are systematically pulled together and distributed evenly across the entire workforce. The union expects to share this massive $9 million pool with over 250 individuals. That staggering number includes players who were actively on the rosters in 2025, music, but it also, incredibly, includes players who have already retired from the sport and players who have been completely released from their contracts. Think about the sheer, mind-bending reality of that financial structure. You have former WNBA players, women who are no longer even actively participating in the league, who are about to receive a direct deposit of up to $50,000 into their bank accounts. And they are receiving that massive financial windfall strictly because millions of passionate, dedicated basketball fans in places like Iowa and Indiana decided to purchase the number 22 jersey of a rookie point guard. The union leadership calls this sharing in the growth. They frame it as a beautiful, unified collective triumph. But, in the ruthless, unvarnished reality of the sports business, music, this is a highly organized, legally mandated form of economic parasitism. Music. The union is actively utilizing the Caitlin Clark stimulus package to artificially subsidize the careers and retirements of hundreds of players who could never organically generate a single dollar of merchandise revenue on their own. And this incredibly massive disconnect between who generates the wealth and who is aggressively demanding to be paid for it is exactly why the impending 2026 lockout is virtually guaranteed.